In the following dramatization, notice how a sister's action are misunderstood as boasting.
Put away from yourselves every kind of malicious bitterness, anger, wrath, screaming and abusive speech, as well as everything injurious. Did anyone start the day thinking, I believe I'll show malicious bitterness to my brother today? Of course not. And yet the potential is there, isn't it? But genuine affection fights peace wreckers. And affection grows when we really know our brothers and sisters well. We remember their joys and pain, their selfless zeal, how they came to love Jehovah, and what they endure.
So we've just seen the beginning of a dramatization that spans the Saturday afternoon of the 2022 Pursue Peace Convention. And I've chosen this point right after the opening minute or so to just reflect on the fact that one of the cast members is someone I know and someone I still consider to be a friend, although I'm sure he doesn't feel the same way. But before I say any more, and I do have quite a bit to say on this, if Tibor is gracious, perhaps you will see overlaid the speaker at the Kingdom Hall in the dramatization. This is actually Stephen Papps, and he is a member of the Britain Branch Committee. And I know who this is because Stephen Papps came to my MTS graduation in 2005. I got to chat with him briefly then. And I remember of the visiting delegation from Bethel, there was him and there was, I forget the other guy's name, quite an older guy. But he was the one I was most drawn to as someone who seemed quite kind and quite intelligent and frankly, the sort of person I hoped would be at the top of the ladder, at the top of the hierarchy. You know, this was before I got to know the governing body and who's on the governing body and what sort of men they are. But Stephen Papps I actually found quite impressive. But it's not Stephen Papps I want to talk about. It's my buddy who was on the MTS course with me. This was the 29th class in Britain. I'm not going to share his full name, but I will share his first name. I just want to limit as much as possible how much personal information I share. I'm not interested in unnecessarily upsetting my classmate, but my friend is called Robin, and he and I, well, I wouldn't say we were the closest of pals during the MTS class, but we did have one or two moments together. And I would say out of all of the people that I shared time with during the course, probably my moments with him were the most memorable, if that makes sense. And as some of you may know, I actually filmed large chunks of my experience at MTS for a video that came to be called MTS 29, which was actually my first ever video that I ever produced. I made it with a friend who was also a classmate, a different classmate. The trouble with the video, it has many problems. It's incredibly long, over 2 hours. It's incredibly self-indulgent. I basically made it because my mother, when we were having our final few conversations, she said, I want you to go to MTS, Lloyd, and I want you to film your graduation. And that kind of stayed with me. So I did everything I could to go to MTS, but I also knew that the rules didn't allow for filming the graduation. So I figured, well, if I take along a video camera and just film as much of the class as I can without actually filming the lessons and without actually filming the graduation itself, that will be something that I can show to Mum when she's resurrected. This was my thinking at the time as someone who believed all the teachings. I had this idea in my head that I would be able to show this video to my mum in the future. So that's what fueled my passion in putting together this 2-hour epic of a video. It was hopelessly self-indulgent, though. It needed to have huge amounts of material scrapped because most of it just isn't interesting. And the second problem with MTS 29 is the soundtrack. I used a lot of third-party music, and this was before I knew about what the appropriate levels were, and the music's really loud and in places quite deafening during MTS 29. So that's another reason why it's problematic to show it to people. And more than anything, I kind of still feel some solidarity with the guys who were on my class, weirdly. You know, even just making this mention of Robin feels a little bit weird, but I'm doing it because he is part of this convention propaganda, this dramatization. And I actually think it's a really, really good opportunity to show my audience how human, how relatable ordinary Jehovah's Witnesses are. That's basically why I'm doing this, Robin, in case you're watching. I think I'm doing it for good reasons. I'm not doing it just because I can or just because I'm interested in, you know, exposing Robin. He's actually a really, really nice guy, so there's nothing to expose. But again, I think it's important to share this material, and hopefully you'll understand why once you've seen the 6-minute montage that I've put together. So I've taken this 2-hour epic and I've narrowed it down to 6 minutes of moments where Robin and I were enjoying, I guess, our experience at MTS. I actually allude to the MTS 29 film in one of the earliest videos on this channel. If Tibor is gracious, a thumbnail will appear to a video titled My MTS Memories, which does feature some footage, just footage of me, frankly, on my bed, talking about how stressed I am by the course, and certainly not featuring any of my classmates. You will hear little bits of third-party music, which an AI machine has managed to mostly get rid of, but there are still traces in there, you know, odd lyrics here and there, which I actually think gives the montage quite a haunting quality. And there's also a scene where you see me reading from a cereal box in a very charismatic way. And that's because we were at this party and we were given this challenge of reading from a cereal box as though we were giving a talk. So that's what that's all about. Bear in mind that bits of songs will appear inexplicably at various points during this montage. And also bear in mind that there's a weird cereal box clip coming up. But otherwise, enjoy. Hello, Robin, how are you?
Hey, Lloyd.
Lloyd, that's me.
Is it Dumb and Dumber?
Yes, there is a Lloyd on that. It's quite appropriate, really, because I'm dumb. Thanks for bringing that to people's attention. Oh, here he comes. He looks splendid. This is Hugh Grant, otherwise known as Robin. Splendid ice, of course. And this is where we're going to be having our photo taken.
When there are clouds
It's very exciting.
in the sky.
Up to now, most of the pictures I've taken of Robin have been on his own.
As is this one.
Smile through your
yeah. Ronnie and Huey both gave fantastic item today, didn't you?
Yes.
Where you are an elder, aren't you, Ronnie? So they were elders in recommending someone to be a ministerial servant, and yours was to be an elder.
That we did not recommend.
No, you sacked him.
We disagree for the.
No one got through, did they? Actually, with the in the demonstrations. I think you were a bit hard taskmasters, to be honest, but it was all done properly and by the book. Got a lot of pens there, Hugh. Do you don't mind me saying?
Yeah, can I talk you through them?
Yeah, sure.
This one is my absolute favourite. It's a Uniball Signo DX 0.38.
Moving on. How are you, Peter?
I'm fine, thank you. How are
Catching
you?
up on some, printing off some material there, I noticed.
Yes, I'm printing up material for tomorrow's lessons.
Well done. Being a diligent student, aren't you?
Well, I try not to be.
Oh, right. You don't.
At least someone in the class has to be.
This one is a very fun
We're not
one.
talking about the pens, okay? It's just not going to happen.
Come.
We want it to be an interesting film. It's just not fair on anyone.
But this one is so fine. I can write in my Bible.
Oh,
Important
I might actually have to borrow that, actually,
like
in all seriousness.
what's your name?
Taking down the sister's phone numbers.
He can't write his name on
Lloyd,
me.
there's your name.
Yeah, it's quite fine, actually. And where did you get that from?
My brother in West Germany.
So you can't get them in this country.
Maybe. I don't know.
And what's he doing in West Germany? Cholesterol and additives. Can we really remain low in fat? With no artificial colours, no preservative, and no added salt. One of the power attractions of this zoo is the. Oh, look at that face! Oh, get that look off your face! Every time I look at you, you're like,
smile. What?
what was that, Huey? Fantastic. And how do you feel about the porcupines?
I feel.
How do they make you feel?
Well, come and have a look.
Okay.
The thing is, I don't know which end's which.
I can't really see. Oh, right, yeah. They are porcupine, aren't they? They don't seem to be performing, do they? Big heap of pines, isn't it?
Could well be dead.
Who killed the porcupine?
Most of the animals here seem to be the dead or mad.
I quite liked the giraffes.
Yeah?
Yeah, they were quite impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, impressing you is quite a tall order.
Well, you know, I like to think that I'm easily
not funny.
pleased.
Never mind.
Yeah, I saw cool order.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah. See what I did there?
I can see exactly what you.
Yeah.
Now Robin's explaining to me.
Yeah. It's a cool Robin.
It did.
Yeah.
So, what's your favourite animal so far, Lloyd?
I did like the giraffes actually. I think they're the most unusual.
Yeah, it's nice to see a baby.
Did you capture the bear reversing?
And the reversing bear was was original. But
You mean it was original?
well, you don't see a bear reverse every day,
No,
do
but
you?
did you get it on there?
Yeah. It's all right.
Because then you could have lots of fun, couldn't you? Going forward and backward.
And then
Like that.
You could anyway.
Yeah, I know. Even more, doubling it up. Like getting way out of the box with that one.
Anyway. I have to say, I was actually quite choked up putting that together because that was a special experience, I guess. Even though it was all nonsense, I still look back at my time at MTS and the memories I shared with Robin with a degree of fondness. I guess there's an element of brothers in arms about the whole thing, you know? We went through something together and we prevailed. And yeah, Robin was just this really warm, sweet guy. I used to tease him about him being the teacher's pet. I think we sort of had a mutual respect for each other. And I actually asked all of the students when I was leaving, when the class was over, I asked all the students to sign my students' notes. And I thought I'd show you what Robin wrote. So if Tibor is gracious, here is Robin's handwritten message. Loud Evans, that was my nickname. There is a lot more to you than your loud, larger-than-life personality reflects. You have a very annoying habit of calling me Hugh Grant, for example. He does look like Hugh Grant. But seriously, I've got to know a very sensitive and caring guy. You usually know where to draw the lines with your antics, though I still can't believe you got away with that Father Ted anthem through the PA. That just shows who the real teacher's pet has been all along. I'll explain that later. Thanks for all your fine answers and assignments, injecting good portions of humour into our lessons, and for sorting me out on that bleak Monday on the third week. I'll explain that as well. I predict big things for you, Evans. Don't let me down, you hear. Also, don't forget that magical through ball that split the Punjabi defence, which led to your glory. Remember me when you get into your kingdom. Love, Robin. So even just reading that, you know, I'm choking up a little bit because what a sweet guy. And yeah, there were a few incidents during the course that he's referring to. He talks about the bleak Monday on the third week. Basically, the first week is a little bit, when you're doing the MTS course, that is, you're kind of just getting used to it and, you know, nothing is too shocking. But then you go into the second week and the third week, and bear in mind it's an 8-week course and you're being given 3 hours of homework at the end of every day. So basically you wake up at like 7 o'clock or whatever and get yourself into the class, and you leave in the evening, come home, have your dinner, do 3 hours of homework, go to sleep, wake up, have a shower, go into the class, and it's just this constant treadmill. And all the time you're having to absorb all of this information. And at a certain point it got too much for Robin. And even though it was weird actually, because he at the time was an elder, I assume he still is an elder, and I was just a ministerial servant, so he outranked me, you could say. But I found myself in the weird situation of giving him a pep talk as a ministerial servant and, you know, telling him to pull through and trying to encourage him. So that's what he's referring to there. There's also the ball that split the Punjabi defence. What he's referring to is the local Punjabi congregation. Bear in mind, in these days, they used to have foreign language congregations, and this was a congregation for Punjabi speakers, and they challenged us to a game of football. And so we had like a full 11 of MTS classmates playing in this game against the Punjabi congregation, and we absolutely walloped them. And yours truly scored the first goal, and I'll never forget, it was this magical cross that Robin from the right wing, very Beckham-esque, he just whipped in this cross, and I just managed to catch the ball on the volley, and it just sailed into the top right-hand corner, and it was our first goal. So it was just this kind of moment in time where it was so, but well, for me, it was, you know, I was very proud of my goal, but also his reaction. And I remember looking back and one or two classmates literally jumping in the air like that. So that's what he's referring to there. You can tell I still have very fond memories about my experience, even though we were learning nonsense for 8 weeks. And he also refers to, I still can't believe you got away with that Father Ted anthem through the PA. So what happened there was Dudley Assembly Hall had, or maybe still has, I don't know, an emergency PA at the back of the platform for when the power goes down and if they need to evacuate the building. And we used to lark around in the main auditorium doing, we called it the untheocratic ministry school. So we used to just take it in turns to go on stage and try to make each other laugh with our style of giving talks or whatever. We used to just say nonsense on the platform at the Dudley Assembly Hall. And I found this kind of PA thing. It was a bit like, you know, in cop cars where they have this kind of thing on, like in old 80s TV shows, they'd have like the walkie-talkie on the end of like a spiral wire, wouldn't they? It was that sort of situation. So I took it off the wall and tested it, and it was really loud and booming. So I thought it'd be really funny if, because I had the Father Ted theme tune on my phone. Father Ted is a hilarious sitcom. If you haven't seen it before, please just find it. It's, I think, one of the most brilliant bits of comedy ever done on TV. Anyway, I had the Father Ted theme song. So I played it down the PA system, assuming it would just go out into the auditorium. What I didn't know was that the PA, emergency PA, was rigged to play in every room in the complex, including the office where our instructors were. So, yes, I don't know how I got away with it. I can remember being invited in to speak to one of the instructors, and I expected to get a real roasting over it. And basically there were two instructors. There was a good cop and a bad cop. And I got the good cop. And he got his Bible out, and he read to me a verse about, and I still can't remember quite what it says, but he says, Lloyd, you have lots of enthusiasm. You bring lots of enthusiasm to our class, to the MTS course. All I want to say is, never lose that enthusiasm. And that was all he said. And they let me go. So that's what he's referring to there. So hopefully that's explained kind of the inside jokes. But again, hopefully you see from that message that Robin is just a really nice guy. And it could be that he ends up watching this part of my rebuttal. I kind of hope he does, to be honest. And Robin, if you are watching, I just want you to know that I love you. You know, I have never lost my fondness for you. probably you feel very different towards me. Probably you deeply resent me talking about you on my channel. Certainly you will resent me making critical videos about the organization that you cherish. But hopefully you can respect the fact that now I'm no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm entitled to share my opinion. I'm entitled to comment on the convention that you have participated in and the dramatization that you have participated in. And again, the reason why I'm sharing the footage now of our time together in MTS, and the reason why I'm reading your message in my notebook, is to show my audience that you're a great guy. Because there are some in my audience who seem to think that all Jehovah's Witnesses are just stupid, and the elders in particular are mean, nasty, evil people. And assuming you're still an elder, you certainly were when I knew you, I hope it's obvious that that's just not true. That Jehovah's Witnesses, including elders, are mostly nice, kind, warm-hearted people. Frankly, that's the reason why I do the work that I do, why I exert so much energy at so much emotional cost in terms of the pushback I get from fellow ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and the hatred that some of them throw at me. The reason I persist is, number one, because I don't want people to get hooked into this abusive and misleading organization that's going to waste so much of their time and has wasted years of our lives, more years of your life than mine. But I don't want people to be drawn in. But secondly, I kind of hope that people like you watching this will find it within themselves to just start asking a few questions. I really, really hope that you and others from my class, and frankly all Jehovah's Witnesses, can at some point give themselves permission to look behind the curtain, to subject their beliefs to objective scrutiny. Because if it's really true, what do you have to lose? I've told my viewers many times, it's a win-win scenario. If this is true, and what I'm saying is a lie, if my videos are brimming with lies, this should be immediately obvious. If I'm misquoting the organization, if I'm putting words in the mouths of the governing body, if I'm making false arguments or using logical fallacies, this will become immediately obvious, and your opinions, your views, your beliefs will be vindicated, and your faith will be stronger than it ever has been before. But if you're wrong, and if I'm right, you'll finally have the power to do something about it. You'll finally have the knowledge to break free mentally from this horrendous organization that's ruining so many lives. So that's why I've showed this video, because I want Jehovah's Witnesses to know that I don't hate them, and I want ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to know that Jehovah's Witnesses are not our enemies. They are mostly kind, warm-hearted, loving people, and they don't deserve to be taken for granted and led along with lies by the governing body.